cue a little bit there. Erika.
Yes.
I have a request here for a potential story from you, if you feel up for it.
All right.
You mentioned earlier that you have a bit of a, when we were doing the Hogwarts thing, that you have a bit of a background in archaeology and history.
Yes.
Do you potentially have an archaeology story that you might want to share with us? Mm-hmm.
I will tell you about my favorite project I have ever worked on.
Heck yeah, you want to, please.
Actually,
You want a minute?
do you give me a couple minutes?
Yeah, go for it.
Archaeology is something I best confirming
Yep.
things like facts and dates.
Yeah, no, that's
I
it.
want to get some of my dates right on this.
I'll mark that as accepted, and I'll give you a couple minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Jacob.
Hey, Andrew.
Do you need a couple minutes?
Is that all right? Just
For
a
sure.
minute? Because
Yeah.
I just want to set something off to set something
Do
up
it.
for later.
Excellent.
I can tell a cool bystander to archaeology story that's fast.
Yeah, please.
Yeah. Can they hear me from here?
I'm not 100% sure. That's
Yeah.
often why we're getting folks to hit the
I'll
mark.
get up. It's fine. Yeah, so I had the opportunity to go to Newfoundland on a choir tour last summer.
I'm jealous.
It was amazing. Everybody go to Newfoundland. It's a really
Like,
great province.
I lived in Prince Edward Island for years. I'm jealous. I've never been to Newfoundland.
It's lovely. Highly recommended. Prepare for wind.
Yeah.
I did not. I had to buy pants while I was there. But yeah, we went to one of our day trips. We went to Fairyland and the lighthouse at Fairyland, which is a gorgeous. Oh, one step forward, two steps back. So Fairyland was one of our stops, and Fairyland, besides having a gorgeous lighthouse as a major tourist attraction, is also the site of, I believe, the oldest colony that was established there, and it is an active archaeological dig site. So while we were there were a lot of grad students there from nearby Memorial University who were digging stuff up. This site was about, oh gosh, I don't have the capacity to look up dates. I want to say like 17th century. Anyway, a beleaguered grad student unearthed an axe in front of us, and it was sweet, and that's my story. It was very cool. She just, hanging out,
That's awesome.
lady in front of us just jigs up an axe.
Just
from
like,
the woods. Yeah.
oh wow.
Like two-handed? Like
It was a little one, but it was, it was solid.
Still
It was
though.
real.
That's
It was something
rad.
that someone touched last,
Yeah,
like,
because
hundreds
Really-
of years ago.
Yeah.
It was in really good shape. Like it was an amazing find, and it was just right there.
and just like in my mind, I imagine, Erika can correct me if I'm wrong, but in my mind, I imagine a lot of archaeological digs are like, well, we found some fragments of something that might be, where it's just,
A lot of it is.
oh,
yeah.
this is just a whole axe.
Yep.
Cool.
This is 1 million pieces of pottery.
Yeah. You feeling all set, Erika?
Yeah.
Please.
So I'm going to tell you about the SS City of Medicine Hat.
Okay.
So, this was a stern-wheeler steamship that was named after the city that its captain lived in, which was Medicine Hat, Alberta. His name was Horatio Hamilton Ross. He was the lesser son of a Scottish. I don't know if they were a noble family or just like a rich family, and they're like, "We don't have anything for you. Here's your inheritance. Go." And he eventually landed in Medicine Hat, ran a hotel for a while, eventually sold that, and built this ship. His intention was to sail up and down the South Saskatchewan River and do shipping runs with it. The problem is that the South Saskatchewan River is not very navigable for steamships. It's very sandy. There's a lot of sandbars. But, he's not a person to be deterred. He wants to be the captain of a steamship. And he's rich. So, in 1908, he decides to sail up the South Saskatchewan from Medicine Hat through Saskatoon. I think his eventual location was the Paw in Manitoba.
Oh, okay.
Yep. So when he gets to Saskatoon, it's about June. In Saskatoon, here's the thing you need to know. The river floods twice. It floods once around April when the snow melts, and then it floods again around June when the snow up in the Rockies melts and flows down the river. And at this point, the river had flooded. In 1904 or 1905, they had just built a brand new traffic bridge across the river. Brand new bridge, super nice. Problem is the river flood and the new bridge meant that there was not enough room for that ship to get underneath that bridge. But they decided they were going to try it anyways. They took they actually like removed the smokestack from the sternwheeler. They unloaded all of the passengers and their belongings.
Yep.
Just in case anything might happen. No foreshadowing.
Yeah.
As they were going, what happened is there was an underwater telegraph cable
Okay.
that fouled up the stern wheel and the rudder. So this thing could no longer turn. And it basically, so it was still going downriver, but they couldn't steer it anymore. And what they did is somebody swam out to the edge of the river and tied off a rope to a tree to try and stop it.
Okay.
What this had the effect of is just swinging it around.
Yeah.
And
Just,
swung it, and it swung straight into one of the concrete pilings on the brand new traffic bridge.
wow.
It was only like a couple years old.
Wow. Oof.
The thing flipped over and then sunk, and they did just sort of left it there.
Okay.
They salvaged the boiler from it, but all the wood frame and stuff, it wasn't worth the cost of trying to pull it out of there. So they just kind of left it.
I found out there's a whole bunch of World War I want to say, era ships sunk in the Potomac that I saw some incredible photographs the other day of these underwater shipwrecks, but they're just barely underwater kind of thing, and in some cases sticking out. And I was like, that looks amazing.
This was all wood framed. It had the effect of sort of creating its own burial as it captured silt from the river.
Sure.
And it started to fill it up. Eventually, in the 60s, the river was infilled to help stabilize the bank of it, and the piling that it had crashed into ended up getting cover as part of this landfill.
okay,
So it's
yeah.
actually, it was in the middle of a park. The bridge doesn't exist anymore.
Right.
But it was in the middle of a park. Around 2012, a bunch of firefighters doing practice dives in the river found an anchor. They took it to one of the archaeologists in town, and they compared it to photos of the SS City of Medicine Hat, and found that the anchor matched, and it was probably the kedge anchor from the ship. So they did some more underwater surveys, didn't find much more, but a few years later, did I say 2012? No, that was 2008. In 2012, the bridge had been condemned, and so they were doing testing on the concrete pilings to see if they were salvageable or if they needed to be removed as well. So they were drilling holes down around them, and as they went down, they started hitting wood. And they were pulling up chunks of wood and artifacts and stuff out of it.
Yeah.
And this is where I come into this story, because at the time I worked for the archaeology company that did this. And so my job was to catalog all of the artifacts that they had pulled out of this buried shipwreck.
Cool.
As they were coming out. It was so cool to handle that stuff, and just, it's my favorite story about a shipwreck in Saskatoon.
Cool. Thank you very much.
That's amazing.
Woo! So season 3 of The Terror confirmed.
Potentially.